Hearts of men a desire to restore simple, original Christianity before the introduction of man-made creeds and regulations. Early stirrings of the movement were felt in England and Scotland, Ireland and Wales, but it was in America, shortly after the Revolutionary War, that it began to catch fire. In this new country, without hundreds of years of traditions, it seemed that it might be possible for Christian men and women to unite in simple New Testament Christianity. And across the new frontiers, this movement began to form. In Kentucky in 1801, there occurred at Cane Ridge one of the great phenomena which characterized this period. Barton Stone, a Presbyterian minister, together with some other preachers, had arrived at the remote settlement to hold services and serve communion. To their surprise, they found 750 wagon loads of people waiting for them. No one knows where they came from. The largest city in Kentucky had only 1,700 people at the time, but the crowds became so large that no one man could be heard by all, so other ministers began to preach, as many as 6 at a time in various parts of the area. Estimates of the crowd range from 3,000 to 25,000 in one day. Those who came stayed for days until the surrounding countryside had been exhausted of food. The records are not clear, but one thing is certain. The Spirit of God united these thousands of people in a common spiritual need, and it seemed that God was visiting the American frontier people in a special way. From the time of Cane Ridge on, Barton Stone developed the growing conviction that man-made creeds and confessions tended to divide Christians. So he and others, who numbered about 15,000, dissolved their presbytery and united in an association which called itself simply Christian. At about the same time in western Pennsylvania, Thomas Campbell, a Societo-Presbyterian who had come to America from Ireland, was disciplined by his presbytery for administering communion to those who were not of his group. Thomas Campbell felt that closed communion was wrong, that the scriptures clearly taught that this was the Lord's table, and no man had the right to deny it to another Christian. When his denomination declined to assign him a pulpit, he and others formed a group that was called the Christian Association of Washington, Pennsylvania. He was commissioned by the association to write its aims and purposes, and while living in the farmhouse of Addison Welsh, waiting for his family to join him from Europe, Thomas Campbell wrote his Declaration and Address, one of the most remarkable documents of American religious history. In it, he stressed the need for Christian unity, and the aims of the movement from that time on were summarized in the phrase, in faith, unity, in opinions, liberty, in all things, love. When his son Alexander arrived from the university in Scotland, he found that though they had been separated by an ocean, they had each come to the same conclusion. The authority of scriptures had to surpass any man-made creed or tradition. After studying the scriptures pertaining to baptism, Alexander became convinced that he should be immersed. To make the position clear, a sequence of sermons lasting a total of 7 hours was preached. Then the immersion took place in the deep pool of a branch of the Buffalo Creek. His father was not so easily persuaded, but on the day of his son's baptism, he quietly revealed that he had asked his wife to prepare a change of clothing for him too. Alexander was a disciplined scholar and writer, and soon emerged as the leader of the growing group of Christians. During his lifetime, he wrote 59 books and was the editor of 2 monthly periodicals. He spent hours in his study, a small brick building in the shape of a hexagon, a few steps from his house. It had windows only at the tip, which besides giving good light to work by, reminded him, as he put it, of his need for light from above. In his home, which was known for many miles around as the Campbell Mansion because it was the first house west of the Alleghenies with glass windows, he founded a boys' academy, and his interest in education led him to found a college across the creek in what is now Bethany, West Virginia. Eventually, the movement encouraged the founding of many schools and colleges across the country. Bethany's first buildings were modeled after those of Glasgow University, the Campbells' alma mater. In 1832, the movement of the Campbells and that of Barton Stone united. Other frontier preachers such as Raccoon John Smith and Walter Scott became part of the common cause, restoring the Bible as the only rule of faith and practice. They became known as Christians or disciples, and from this humble beginning in the Ohio Valley, the movement has grown in 130 years to now include over 5 million believers. The men and women of this movement came from churches and groups with wide theological backgrounds, but they came together because they felt that the seed of truth and the basis for unity could be found in the New Testament. The emphasis of this plea for unity has always marked our movement. For as Christ prayed in John 17:20 and 21, "My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me."